So imagine walking into like your favorite high school football stadium,
Okay.
but instead of, Friday night lights and the smell of popcorn and cheering crowds, the bleachers are just dead silent.
Oh, wow.
Right. And the concourse, like the exact place where you used to buy sodas, is suddenly filled with these massive industrial bins.
Just a completely chilling visual.
Exactly. And those bins are overflowing with confiscated wedding rings, eyeglasses, children's coats.
Yeah, that's just so heavy.
It really is.
Yeah.
So if you can picture that deeply unsettling inversion of a public space, then you are exactly where we need to be today for this deep dive.
We really are.
Because yesterday, April 29th, 2026, we all witnessed a broadcast that essentially shattered the collective psyche of its audience.
It totally did.
We are doing a deep dive into Season 1, Episode 6 of The Testaments. The episode is titled Stadium.
I mean, it was an hour of television that just demanded immediate processing from everyone watching.
Absolutely.
When you look at the source material guiding our discussion today, like the hyperactive, incredibly perceptive discussion threads pouring out of the Are the Handmaid's Tale subreddit, you see a community that is just reeling.
Totally reeling.
Yeah, the official synopsis gave us this very sterile mechanics of the episode,
Right, like ants finalizing matches using ancestry records.
Exactly. And young Agnes plotting for her chance at love, and Aunt Lydia contemplating the choices that fueled her rise in Gilead. But that synopsis deliberately hides the emotional violence of what actually unfolds on screen.
Oh, it hides it so well. The fans over on Reddit were essentially conducting this massive, real-time forensic analysis of trauma.
Yeah, they really were.
They're dissecting the actual architecture of a dystopia.
Spot on.
So our mission today is to sift through that immediate shock, the wild theories, and the massive character revelations to understand what this specific hour tells us about, well, survival and complicity.
Which is such a dense topic to unpack.
It is. Because reading through the live reactions, you could feel this community of viewers hit a completely new threshold.
And these are viewers who are incredibly well-versed in the darkness of this universe.
Right. But this episode punched right through years of built-up tolerance.
It really did.
So, okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the visual that left the internet absolutely reeling.
A stadium.
Yes, moving from the abstract theory of how a totalitarian regime operates right down into its horrifying physical reality.
The stadium sequence completely anchors the episode's horror.
Definitely.
And what's crucial to understand about the reactions, I mean, take a viewer who goes by Arabian banter.
Oh, yeah, I saw that comment.
Yeah, they call this scene genuinely one of the most harrowing in this series by far.
Which is saying something for this show.
It really is, and I think it highlights the distinction between horror and terror.
Okay, unpack that distinction for me.
Well, horror is the visceral reaction to, like, blood on screen, right?
Right.
But terror is the slow, crushing realization of mechanized efficiency.
Oh, that's such a good way to put it.
Yeah, because the original series often localized its abuses behind the closed doors of commanders' homes.
Which was terrifying in its own way.
Exactly. But what the stadium does is drag the audience out into the open, showing us the industrial scale of Gilead's formation.
It's the sheer scale that makes it so unbearable.
It really is.
Watching Aunt Lydia walk past the bins of belongings, I mean, that was the moment that just broke people.
Totally. A viewer named Senior actually pointed out that this specific visual made them physically gasp.
I gasped too. Because, and here's where it gets really interesting, if you look at historical memorials, whether it's the Holocaust Museum or memorials in Rwanda,
Right.
the most devastating exhibits are never the weapons.
No, never.
It's the piles of shoes.
Yeah.
It's the stacks of luggage. A bin of belongings represents a void.
It's the absence of the person.
Exactly. It represents the person who is just stripped of their watch, their glasses, their fundamental humanity.
And then fans started noticing the blanks in the stadium scene.
Yes. The blanks.
Just the sheer sensory overload of institutionalized cruelty.
It's so much to take in.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the regime isn't just taking jewelry,
Right.
They're taking physical markers of identity. By stripping those away, the individual just ceases to exist and simply becomes a unit of processing.
That is so bleak.
It is. And the related discussions in the forum contextualize this beautifully.
What were they saying?
Well, viewers were immediately drawing subconscious lines back to past traumas in the universe.
Like the mock execution of the handmaids with the nooses.
Exactly. And the mouth rings.
Oh, God, the mouth rings.
And Eden drowning in the pool. and disabled and elderly women being loaded onto trucks for their implied deaths.
It's all connected.
The visual language of systemic erasure is totally cumulative.
But what elevates the stadium is its terrifying mundanity.
Mundane is the perfect word for it.
Yeah, one Redditor actually drew a very disturbing, very apt parallel to the Bosnian War.
I really want to dig into that historical parallel.
It's a heavy one. It is, because it addresses a critique people often have about dystopian fiction, like this idea that the speed of Gilead's rise is somehow unrealistic.
Right, that it happens too fast.
Yeah, but history tells us otherwise, doesn't it?
Absolutely it does. The Bosnian War parallel is so poignant because it highlights how quickly the veneer of civilization just completely dissolves.
Right.
In Sarajevo, people who had been neighbors for decades, who had attended each other's weddings and shared meals, were suddenly sniping at each other across streets.
It's just unimaginable.
And the societal collapse didn't take generations. It took months.
Wow.
A stadium is the perfect physical manifestation of this.
Because it's a shared space.
Exactly. It's an infrastructure built for communal integration.
Right.
And it gets rapidly repurposed for mass segregation.
Let's focus on that subversion of space for a second.
Yeah, let's.
Think about what a stadium represents to you in your everyday life.
Right.
It is Friday night football. It is thousands of people sharing a chorus at a summer concert.
Good times, basically.
Yeah, it is a monument to collective leisure. To take a space designed for joy and invert it into a holding pen for mass subjugation, I mean, it subverts your innate understanding of physical safety.
It completely violates that trust.
Consider the physical spaces in your own life that make you feel connected.
Your local park, your arena.
Yeah. Now imagine those exact same walls repurposed to process human beings like cattle.
It gives me chills.
The architecture hasn't changed, but the soul of the space has been entirely weaponized.
It really has.
And walking right through the center of that weaponized space, casually strolling past the bins of stolen lives, is Aunt Lydia.
Right. Which transitions us from the physical architecture of terror directly into the psychological architecture.
Yes, because stadiums don't fill themselves with prisoners.
No, they don't. People build systems and people enforce them.
Exactly.
And the massive revelation regarding Lydia's backstory just completely consumed the fan discussions.
Oh, it was all anyone was talking about.
It forces us to reevaluate every single action she has taken since the very first pilot episode of the original series.
It recontextualizes years of television.
Literally years.
For so long, the baseline assumption, which was echoed by people like Arvarki in the threads, was that Lydia was just a far-right fanatic.
Right, just a true believer.
Yeah, we assumed she was all in on the ideology from day one, a true believer who finally found a regime that validated her internal extremism.
But the reality this episode delivers is so much more complicated.
It's way more complicated. She wasn't a fanatic.
No.
As Arvarki noted, she was a curmudgeonly cat lady and an elementary school teacher.
We always talk about Hannah Arendt's banality of evil.
Yeah, the classic philosophical concept.
Right. But this episode actually weaponizes it. Seeing a fourth-grade teacher grade spelling tests with a cat on her lap, knowing she's about to orchestrate mass executions.
It's jarring.
It is Arendt's theory made physically manifest. The concept posits that the greatest atrocities aren't committed by comic book sociopaths, but by ordinary people who simply accept the premises of a new system to advance their own standing or just ensure their own survival.
Yeah, and viewers like Bookie Grime were heavily praising the continuous, nuanced portrayal by Ann Dowd across both series.
He is phenomenal.
He is playing a character who is herself playing a character.
Yes, that layered performance is incredible.
Right, and another viewer, You Can Call Me Queen Bee, explicitly brought up the phrase banality of evil to describe how the system brings out the unthinkable in people.
It's a great connection.
It is, but here's where it gets really interesting. I have to push back on this framing a little bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
If Lydia's religious fervor and your absolute sycophancy in the early seconds was a put-on.
Like a survival tactic.
Exactly, a survival tactic where she actively sacrificed others to save herself, does that actually make her banal? I mean, compare her to an undercover cop who infiltrates a mob family.
Okay, I'm tracking.
If that cop stays undercover for 10 years and starts genuinely ordering hits to maintain their cover, at what point does the cover just become their actual identity?
That's such a good point.
If Lydia faked her devotion to survive, doesn't conscious complicity make her far more terrifying than a true believer?
That is a phenomenal distinction. A true believer commits atrocities because Their moral compass is fundamentally realigned.
Right, they think they're doing good.
Exactly. They genuinely believe they are serving a higher purpose. But Lydia's moral compass wasn't broken initially.
Not at all.
She was an elementary school teacher. Her entire profession was predicated on teaching right from wrong.
Yes.
Which means every time she raised a cattle prod, she knew exactly what she was doing.
She knew it was evil.
She wasn't blinded by faith. She was driven by pure, calculating self-preservation.
Which is just so dark.
It raises an important question, right? What does it do to the human brain to continuously perform acts of horrific violence that you know are wrong, purely to appease a power structure?
It fractures the psyche. You have to compartmentalize to the point of absolute sociopathy.
You really do.
And that self-preservation doesn't exist in a vacuum, you know? It requires fuel.
And the fuel is the people immediately around you.
Which brings us to the collateral damage of Lydia's survival strategy, the co-worker dynamic.
Oh, man.
The revelation about Aunt Vidala absolutely blew up the Reddit thread.
It was the shock of the night, hands down.
Tell me about it.
A viewer named R.G. Edmonton Stalker captured the collective whiplash perfectly. They wrote, Vidala was Lydia's co-worker.
What a wad! I had the exact same reaction.
The realization that Vidala wasn't just some random recruit from the ant training facility, but a colleague from the elementary school, fundamentally alters their entire dynamic.
They shared the same staff room.
Right.
They probably complained about the same principal and shared the same microwave.
Probably argued over who left their mug in the sink.
Exactly. But the episode shows us that when the militarized takeover happened, Lydia was 100% willing to kill Vidala to prove her loyalty to Gilead.
It's just so ruthless.
How does a normal office dynamic morph into a kill or be killed gladiatorial arena so quickly?
It's terrifying how fast it happens.
Imagine the person in the cubicle next to yours. You chat about the weather. Suddenly, they are handed a cattle prod and the power of life and death over you.
And they don't even hesitate.
Right. And to prove they deserve to keep it, they point it at your head.
The psychological fallout of that betrayal is just staggering.
It really is.
Another user, Cosmic Lovecat, pointed out that it suddenly makes perfect sense why Vidala harbors such deep-seated hatred for Lydia.
Of course she does.
But it also opens up this massive, ambiguous space for speculation.
What kind of speculation?
Well, our Bickrage Edmonton stalker expanded on their initial shock by wondering about the current state of their relationship.
Okay.
Are Vidala and Lydia secretly working together to aid the Mayday resistance?
Oh, wow.
Or was their relationship so permanently severed by Lydia's betrayal that Vidala simply lives in eternal, simmering fear of the woman who almost executed her?
See, I have to challenge the idea that they could be secretly working together.
Why is that?
How could you ever trust her? If you're Vidala and Lydia says, hey, I only pretended to try and kill you so we could both survive.
Right.
How do you know that isn't just another manipulation?
That's very true.
I think fear binds these two women together far more tightly than any secret alliance ever could.
Fear is a powerful motivator.
In a totalitarian system, paranoia is the glue that holds relationships together, not trust.
I'd agree. The trauma bond created by continuous fear is incredibly potent. Totalitarianism thrives on isolating individuals from one another.
Exactly.
If Vidala lives in perpetual terror of Lydia, she is essentially policing herself. The state doesn't even need to watch her anymore. Lydia's presence does the work for them.
It's so efficient.
And that ambient terror extended to others in their immediate orbit. A viewer named White Girl brought up the chilling detail of Lydia's pregnant co-worker from the flashbacks.
Oh, that broke my heart.
Fans are actively piecing together that this woman was likely automatically assigned as a handmaid the very moment the regime took over.
It is the immediate weaponization of biology.
Yep.
One day, you are a pregnant teacher organizing a bulletin board, and the next day, your bodily autonomy is literally state property.
Just gone.
And the woman who used to help you grade papers is now orchestrating your subjugation.
It's mind-blowing.
The regime didn't just conquer the country with tanks, it conquered it by turning the populace inward on itself.
Turning neighbors into enemies.
It weaponized mundane, everyday relationships. But, you know, if the women in the system are busy betraying each other just to survive the fallout, we have to look up the chain of command.
And the people actually designing the game.
Exactly. Let's look at the men of Gilead.
The architects of the misery.
Yeah.
The commanders.
Yeah.
The thread had a deeply visceral reaction to Commander Judd this episode. A user named Ash Linkso pointed out that Judd was giving off major Fred vibes, which made them incredibly uncomfortable.
Ugh. Fred vibes is such a specific, shudder-inducing term for the fan
It
base.
really paints a picture.
It represents a very particular brand of smarmy, hypocritical, toxic ambition.
Yes.
It's a man who cloaks his absolute ruthlessness in a veneer of polite, patriarchal piety.
Perfectly said. Another viewer, American Seagull, nailed Judd's motivation, describing him as a commander who was clearly just trying to climb the corporate dickhead ladder.
But wait, let's unpack this closely. How does a theocracy allow for corporate-style climbing?
Well, what's fascinating here is that totalitarian regimes often function exactly like hyper-aggressive corporate bureaucracies.
Really? How so?
The religious ideology is just the branding. The actual day-to-day operation is about liability management, performance metrics, and restructuring.
Wow, that makes so much sense.
And the fans picked up on this corporate analogy immediately. User Darkness is great noted that before, George Winslow was a lawyer, Fred Waterford was in marketing, and Lydia was a teacher.
Right.
So what was Judd? And Mildly Sour Pill hilariously suggested, clearly he worked in HR.
Oh my gosh, that is a dark joke. But it is terrifyingly plausible.
Isn't it?
Because human resources, in its most cynical, dystopian form, is about managing human capital to protect the company's liabilities.
Exactly.
And that is exactly how Judd views the world. He views human beings as risk factors or assets.
Just numbers on a spreadsheet.
Does a man like Judd even care about their religious ideology, or is he just engaging in the ultimate, most toxic form of networking?
It is entirely the latter. Revolutions are started by true believers, but they are sustained by opportunists.
Right.
Judd is a middle management opportunist who realizes that in Gilead, the currency of power is orthodox performance.
He's just playing the game.
Exactly. If the regime demanded he recite Marxist theory to gain a corner office, he would do it without blinking.
He absolutely would.
He uses the rhetoric of faith as a bludgeon. And the most heartbreaking casualty of that corporate ambition is his wife, Penny.
The situation with Penny is just devastating.
It really is.
American Seagull highlighted her terrifying position. She has miscarried 3 times. We are looking at a society where a woman's entire worth is reduced to her reproductive capacity.
Sad but true.
So a wife who has miscarried thrice has virtually zero value in this economy. She is completely expendable.
It exposes the absolute precariousness of power, even for the elite.
Because no one is safe.
We tend to view the wives as the top of the female hierarchy, holding immense privilege.
Right, they have the big houses, the nice clothes.
But their position is entirely transactional. They are status symbols for the commanders.
And Penny is failing to provide the ultimate status symbol, a child.
Exactly. This makes her incredibly vulnerable because Judd isn't going to accept a diminishment of his own corporate stock because of a quote-unquote failing asset.
He'll just discard her.
He will discard her to keep climbing that ladder. The callousness is baked into the system's DNA.
It's horrifying.
It's why fans also expressed a brief, lingering sympathy for another character, with user Jazz God simply stating, "Wow, poor Keith." The exact nature of Keith's fate is left as a tantalizing breadcrumb. But the sentiment remains. If you are not useful to the commanders, you are disposed of.
It's a society entirely devoid of unconditional love. Every single relationship is conditional on your utility to the state.
100%.
And the anxiety of that conditionality trickles all the way down to the youth. Which brings us to a major shift in the episode's focus.
Yes, the younger generation.
We have the cynical ambition of the commanders, the survivalist betrayals of the ants, and then we have the girls who were born into this nightmare, the youth of Gilead.
It's a whole different perspective.
Let's delve into the dynamic between the plums and the pearls.
This is where the sociological world building of the Testaments gets incredibly intricate.
Because it's a whole new caste system.
Exactly. The regime imposes a strict social hierarchy even on the teenage girls. You have the plums at the top and the pools below them.
The state is training them early.
Training them how to segregate, how to enforce class divisions, and how to police their own ranks.
It's essentially standard high school mean girl dynamics, but completely weaponized by the state.
Weaponized mean girls. That's terrifying.
In our world, if you sit at the wrong cafeteria table, you get mocked. In their world, if you step out of your caste, you end up on the wall.
The stakes are just astronomically high.
And yet, human nature finds a way to short-circuit the programming.
It always does.
There was this deeply tragic moment that a user named Field Greendad highlighted. Daisy, who is a Pearl, so lower class, is sweet-talked and actually accepted into the inner circle of the Plums.
And what's vital to understand is why she is accepted.
Right.
The pivotal moment isn't a shared ideological victory, it's shared trauma.
The grief.
The girls huddled together to grieve a miscarriage. The old Dream Dad pointed out how heartbreaking it was that the Plums reached out to include Daisy in that huddle.
Because they have every reason not to.
Exactly. They have every institutional reason to be suspicious of her, to reject her based on her Pearl status.
Right.
But the shared, unspoken terror of their reality overrides the state-mandated class divisions.
I love how that Redditor framed it, like they really are just a group of teenaged girls.
Yeah.
In another reality, they'd be stressing about prom dresses or chemistry exams. Here, their cliques have life-or-death consequences.
Grief becomes the only unregulated space they have left.
Wow, that is a profound way to put it.
Trauma bonds them in a way the ants can't fully control.
But that bond is incredibly fragile, isn't it? Because the system is constantly forcing them into impossible, devastating dilemmas.
Always tasking them.
Look at the subplot with Agnes and Hulda.
Yes, user OurCanthicida42 theorized about Agnes being put in a terrible position regarding Hulda.
Okay, what's the theory?
The episode hints that Hulda is going to be the squeaky wheel about the dentist.
The dentist, right.
The implication, which was expanded upon by user YasPlease, is that Hulda is going to be assaulted, and unlike others, she is not going to stay quiet about it.
She is going to speak out, which creates the ultimate prisoner's dilemma for Agnes. Think about the mechanics of this choice.
It's an impossible choice,
If Hulda speaks out, she makes herself a target for the regime.
obviously.
If Agnes supports her, Agnes becomes complicit in the rebellion and alienates herself from the safety of the institution.
Yeah.
But if Agnes stays quiet to protect herself, she is complicit in the abuse and betrays her friend. There is literally no right choice.
None. It's a psychological trap designed specifically to destroy solidarity among the youth.
It's just so cruel.
Exactly. Totalitarianism relies on isolation to function. If the girls trust each other more than they trust the ants, the system crumbles,
So the system constantly tests them.
constantly forcing them to choose between their conscience and their survival. We see this exact same desperation playing out in the matchmaking theories.
Right. User Hayuther wondered if Becca and Garth will be matched.
Oh, that theory.
And Senior jumped in to agree because Becca has absolutely no other prospects except, quote, that creepy dude who tried to get her drunk.
Ugh, the options are just terrible.
These young girls are trying to navigate a dating pool that is basically a minefield of state-sanctioned predators.
They aren't looking for romance.
No. They are desperately searching for the least dangerous harbor.
It is a dark mirror to the matchmaking the ants were doing at the start of the episode.
How so?
Well, the ants treat the girls like livestock, sifting through ancestry records to optimize breeding.
Right.
The girls, meanwhile, are just trying to find a match that won't result in their immediate torture.
It's a heavily constrained existence.
It really is. And it leads us directly back to the older generation and how the history of the original series is continuously echoing into the present actions of these characters.
We need to analyze the true believers.
Yes, we do.
Because not everyone is faking it like Lydia, and not everyone is just a cynical middle manager like Judd.
We get the introduction of Antesty.
Yes, and the fans were highly activated by this character.
Users like Yobuka Frey and Chicken's Air Friends were dying to know more because the episode reveals that Este is the original Pearl Girl.
And being the original anything in Gilead means you were present at the genesis of the ideology.
User Arvarki noted that amongst all the ants, Este seems the most likely to be a genuine, unshakable true believer.
I can see that.
They pointed out she has crazy eyes. User Sugar Charm agreed, saying her fanaticism is palpable from the start.
Crazy Eyes is definitely a tell.
Although it is worth noting the resilience of the fandom. Optimistic fans like White Girl were holding out hope that maybe her extensive experience actually radicalized her against the state.
Oh, hoping she's Mayday.
Yeah, that she might secretly be Mayday.
The fans will always look for the double agent, and you honestly can't blame them.
You really can.
But let's contrast Este with Lydia for a moment.
Okay.
If Este is a true believer, her cruelty is born of ideological convictions. But Lydia's cruelty, as we've established, was born of survival and careerism. This contrast brings us to a massive, brilliant thematic callback.
The request.
Agnes makes a special request, and a viewer named Constant Cookie 3329 asked who else burst out laughing at Lydia's reaction to it.
It was such a great moment.
Because in that moment, Lydia realizes something profound.
User Crustuma summed up Liddy's internal monologue perfectly. She looks at Agnes and realizes she is just like her mama.
Meaning, just like June Osborne.
Yep.
And this is where the deep lore of the show pays off so spectacularly for longtime viewers. User Howard Canthicida42 made a connection that honestly blew my mind.
It's such a good connection.
They connected a quote from this episode back to the season 1 finale of the original Handmaid's Tale.
The stoning of Janine.
Yes, the iconic scene where June drops her rock and the handmaids sequentially refuse to stone Janine to death.
Still gives me goosebumps.
Same. So in this current episode, we get a flashback to the stadium, and as user Fuck pointed out, Lydia delivers a chilling line.
A friend is a dangerous thing to have in Gilead.
Yes. Our Canthicida42 noted that watching the stadium scene with the blanks and the bins of belongings gives Lydia's infamous anger during that season 1 finale a completely new, devastating depth.
Because when the handmaids refused to stone Janine, they were risking the wall.
Right. They were refusing to betray their friend to appease the power structure.
What's fascinating here is how this rewrites our entire understanding of Lydia's psychology.
Totally.
For years, we read Lydia's rage in that stoning scene as the righteous fury of a religious fanatic whose authority was being defied.
That's what we all thought.
But this new episode recontextualizes it entirely. If Lydia is actually a survivor who faked her way into power by cowardly betraying her own coworker, Fidala,
Oh, wow.
then watching the handmaids choose solidarity over survival isn't just an insult to Gilead's laws. It is a direct, agonizing insult to her.
It's a mirror reflecting her own cowardice.
Exactly.
Taking that a step further, her anger at the handmaids is actually projected self-hatred.
Oh, absolutely.
She is furious at them for being brave. She is furious at them for proving that you don't have to sacrifice your humanity to the system just to survive.
It invalidates her entire survival strategy.
When she says a friend is a dangerous thing to have in Gilead, she isn't just threatening the girls.
No, she's stating a fact of her life.
She is stating the core miserable thesis of her own existence. Friendship, loyalty, love, these are lethal vulnerabilities in the corporate theocracy she helped build.
And she knows this because she surgically removed those vulnerabilities from herself to get ahead.
Exactly. So when she looks at Agnes and sees June's defiance, she isn't just seeing a rebellious teenager.
She is seeing the ghost of the moral courage she abandoned in the stadium years ago.
Man, that is just incredible writing.
It really is.
So what does this all mean for us? We look at Agnes inheriting June's defiance. On one hand, it's a thrilling narrative moment.
The audience cheers for the spark of rebellion.
Obviously. But in a world where a friend is a dangerous thing, where loyalty gets you hung on a wall, is that defiance a gift or is it a curse?
That's the tragic question.
Agnes is walking directly into the exact same buzzsaw that mangled her mother.
It's generational trauma playing out in real time.
The rebellion is inherited, but so is the lethal danger of possessing a conscience.
And that is the central tragedy of the Testament. It demonstrates that the machinery of oppression doesn't stop just because one generation ages out.
It just keeps grinding.
It simply retools itself to grind down the next generation.
Yeah.
But it also demonstrates that the human instinct for connection, whether it is the plums and pearls huddling over the shared grief of a miscarriage, or the handmaids dropping their stones in the rain, it cannot be entirely eradicated.
No matter how harrowing the architecture of the stadium gets.
Precisely.
Which brings us to the end of our deep dive today.
What an episode to unpack.
Truly, we have taken the incredible real-time insights from the Art Handmaid's Tale community and tried to map the emotional and psychological terrain of a truly devastating hour of television.
The community really pulled out some amazing insights.
They did. We've explored the physical architecture of terror by looking at how public spaces are inverted in the stadium.
And we've deconstructed the deeply unsettling mechanisms of Aunt Lydia's survival and the toxic, HR-driven ambition of Commander Judd.
And we've seen the fragile, desperate solidarity of teenage girls trying to survive it all.
The fans are doing a remarkable job of untangling these dense threads of complicity. They're analyzing not just what the characters are doing, but the deeply human, deeply flawed reasons why they do it.
But I want to leave you, the listener, with one final thought to mull over, something that builds on the psychology we've unpacked today.
Okay, let's hear it.
We talked about Lydia acting like an undercover cop, building this terrifying persona purely as a survival mechanism.
Right.
We talked about her sacrificing her coworkers, her morals, and her basic humanity just to stay alive in a broken, violent system.
Yeah.
But think about the nature of a mask. If you put on a monster mask day in and day out to survive the monsters around you, at what point does the mask fuse to your face? Can you ever simply take it off? If you survive by actively performing evil, are you ever really able to be human again?
That's a haunting question.
The next time you find yourself staring at a black screen, physically holding your breath after the credits roll, remember that the true terror isn't the fiction on the screen.
No, it's not.
It's how easily the fiction reflects the darkest, most banal capabilities of the real world. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.